Bonjour, bienvenue encore à Language Place. Nous voici encore en classe de français. Dans la classe précédente, on a vu les différentes variations en ce qui concerne les verbes du premier groupe. Maintenant, on va voir la troisième variation, la quatrième variation et la cinquième variation. Très bien. In the last class, we treated the first variation and the second variation. In this class, we are going to see the third variation, the fourth and the fifth variation. Now, we are starting with the third variation. Appeler. Appeler means to call. Appeler means to call. Now, to conjugate the verb appeler, you have to double these consonants. L. You have to double the L. Donc, you don't say j'appelle and add E for je. No, you double it. Donc, it becomes j'appelle. Tu. You double it to. And then you add ES, which is the ending for tu. For il, you double it. And then you add E, which is the ending for il. Elle, you double it. Then you add E, which is the ending. Now, for nous, and vous, the consonant is not doubled. It stays as one L and one L. That is why it is called a variation. So for nous, you add ONS, which is nous appelons. For vous, you add EZ, which is vous appelez. For il, you double it again, and then you add ENT. For L, you double it, and then you add ENT. By now, you should be conversant with the different endings for the different persons in conjugation. Now, let's quickly see another verb, which is also amongst the verbs that follow the third variation. The verb épeler. Épeler. Épeler is a verb that means to spell. To spell. Now, to conjugate the verb épeler, once you take this ER, which is the ending, what remains is the stem. Now, when you start conjugating, you have to double this L, which is why that is the third variation. J'appelle. And then you add E. For tu, you double it again. Tu épelles. And then you add ES. For il, you also double it. And then you add E. For L, you also double it. And then you add E. For nous, you don't double it. Remember, for most of these variations, the same thing goes for the first variation, the second variation, and the third variation. You don't apply the variation for nous and vous. Je, tu, il, elle, the consonant is doubled. But for nous and vous, the consonant remains single. So, nous épelons, vous épelez, ça va? Then il, you double it. You double it. Elle, you double it. Très bien. So that is the third variation. Now we are moving on to the fourth variation. The fourth variation. The reason why the fourth variation exists is because of these vowels here. They are very special vowels. They are called the dark vowels. The dark vowels are special vowels in French. Why they are dark is because they affect pronunciation. Whenever you find a dark vowel in French after the letter G, it is pronounced as G. G. For example, This is pronounced as garçon. Garçon. Why? Because A is a dark vowel and it makes us to pronounce this G as G. Let's see another example. O is a dark vowel, so we pronounce this as go-go instead of jojo. O makes us to pronounce this G as G, so it is pronounced go-go. Another effect of dark vowels is that they make the letter C to be pronounced as K. They make the letter C to be pronounced as K. For example, U is a dark vowel, so we pronounce this as cuvette, cuvette, and not suvette. O is a dark vowel, so we pronounce this as commencer and not semencer. Dark vowels make us to pronounce C as K and G to be pronounced as G. Très bien. Now let's move on to the fourth variation. The fourth variation applies to verbs that end with GER and CER. For example, commencer. Commencer is a verb that ends with CER and it means to start. To start. Now, it follows the regular pattern of first group verbs. Remember, first group verbs are regular verbs. They have a regular pattern of conjugation and they always end with ER. Now, let's start with the conjugation of the verb commencer. Of course, once we remove the ending, what remains is the stem. So we put the stem, je commence, tu commences, il commence, elle commence. For je, you add I, je commence. For tu, you add is, tu commences. For il, you add I, il commence. For elle, you add I, elle commence. Now, let's look at nous, vous, il, and elle. Remember, for nous, the ending is ONS. But if we put ONS, remember O is a dark vowel, and it would make C to be pronounced as K. So that would have become commencons. But we don't want that because we pronounce this as je commence, tu commences, il commence, elle commence, nous commençons would not go. So we add this sign, cédille. This is a special character in French and it is pronounced cédille. Cédille makes us to continue pronouncing it as S. So this is pronounced commençons. Nous commençons, vous commencez, il commence et elle commence. Très bien. So let's quickly see another type of verb that falls under the fourth variation verbs. Amorcer. 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 Amorcer means to boot, as in to boot a computer. Amorcer. It means to boot. Now, this, once we remove the stem, the ending, what remains is the stem. We add the stem, j'amorce, tu amorces, il amorce, elle amorce, nous amorces, vous. Très bien. Now for je, you add I as the ending. J'amorce. For tu, you add IS. Tu amorces. For il, you add I. Il amorce. For elle, elle amorce. For nous, now this will be pronounced as amorcon, because O is a dark vowel, and that is what we don't want. So we change this C to CCD, and that becomes nous amorçons. Vous amorcez, ils amorcent, elles amorcent. Now, that is the explanation for verbs that end with CER. Now let's move on to verbs that end with GER. 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 Now this is my best verb, manger. Manger is a verb that ends with GER and it means to eat. To eat. To eat. Moi je mange bien. To eat. Now once you remove this ending, what remains is the stem. You add the stem. Je mange. Tu manges. Il mange. Elle mange. Now for je, you add I. That becomes je mange. For tu, you add IS. Tu manges. For il, you add I. Il mange. For elle, elle mange. Maintenant, for nous. Remember, I said O is a dark vowel and it makes us to pronounce G as G. So this would be pronounced as nous mangeons, and that is what we don't want. So we add I here. In this case, I has come in between O and G. So this is no more mangeons, but mangeons. This happens to all verbs that end with GER. Vous mangez, il mange, elle mange. Now that is how GER verbs are conjugated. Let's quickly see another example. Nager. Nager. Nager means to swim. Nager means to swim. Now, once I remove this ending, what remains is the stem. Je nage, tu nages, il ou elle nage. Remember, I add the ending. Je nage, tu nages, il nage, elle nage. For nous, vous, il ou elle. I add the ending for nous, and this will become nous nageons. That is what we don't want, because O is a dark vowel. It makes G to be pronounced as G. This becomes nous nageons. In order to avoid that, we take I here, we add it, then we put the ONS. So this remains nous nageons. Vous nagez, il nage, elle nage. Très bien. Donc, sur ce, je m'arrête pour cette classe. C'est tout pour les verbes de la 4e variation. Dans la prochaine classe, on va voir les verbes du 2e groupe. Merci.